Hello, it is Lynx here, and today I will be reading Chapter 3 of The Taste of Music on Your Tongue by Strawberries Banana 2 on AO3. Just for some reminders, it has been a while since I've posted this one, so this is a Bakudeku fic, so be warned of that. And it's rated general audiences, but there is the archive warning of graphic depictions of violence. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Chapter 3, Born for This. Summary. Izuku had thought he left his childhood stubbornness behind in high school, having grown into the anxiety-ridden people-pleaser he was today. But no, Bakugo seemed to know exactly how to bring it out of him again, and it had annoyed Izuku to no end. He didn't want to yell at the guy in the first 20 minutes of meeting him, but that seemed to be exactly what Bakugo wanted. The blonde seemed to get more frustrated by the second, tapping his thumb on the table 12 times exactly. No, Izuku did not make an effort to count. He just noticed it over time, before taking a sip of his drink. Was he really all that bothered by Izuku's presence? Notes. So, I'm just gonna go over the author's notes that seem important. So, Born for This by Paramore is explicitly mentioned. Ooh, Taste by Sabrina Carpenter. So these songs fit the vibes of the chapter, apparently. So, Taste by Sabrina Carpenter, Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash, Ocean Eyes by Billie Eilish. And warnings, the author does not own Paramore, and neither do I. We don't own the songs or the characters. The author only owns the plot. Okay. And apparently this chapter has 8.3 thousand words, so we're going to be here for a while. So without further ado, let's get into this. Izuku Midoriya, I swear to God, if you are still in bed, I'm going to rip your teeth out one by one and put your jaw in a paper shredder. Who needs an alarm clock when Ochako has a spare key to your apartment? To be fair, it was his idea to get her own key. But that was only to be used for emergencies, and he stupidly didn't take into consideration that oversleeping would be one of them, a serious one at that. Izuku tumbled out of bed in shock. He winced in pain when his side landed down hard on something. He clutched one hand to his hip, looking down to see what his dumb ass had fallen on top of. His eyes roamed the floor until they found what he must have hit. He had accidentally landed on his empty metal water bottle, the one he'd meant to refill last night. He whipped his head up at the angry sounds vibrating through his apartment. Oh, right. Ochako was supposed to help him get ready for Paramore's concert tonight. Izuku jumped to his feet, nearly rolling his ankle on the same damn drink bottle. He kicked it under the bed in frustration. I'm awake, Ochako, he called out, desperately trying to make himself seem as though he had been up for the last couple of hours. He wiped away some drool marks from his cheeks and blinked a couple times, letting the room come back into focus. Ochako opened his bedroom door, looking significantly pissed. She crossed her arms, looking around at the disturbed room with poorly hidden disbelief. She sighed, her shoulders sagging. So you just decided to miss my calls for fun then? Her voice was laced with a fake sarcastic confusion. Izuku laughed awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. Oops. Go get ready, Izuku! Ochako snapped, her voice sharp and dangerously motherly. Yes, ma'am. Izuku blurted out immediately, rushing to grab his towel and a change of clothes without arguing. You don't mess with an angry Ochako. Izuku had learned that the hard way years ago. Izuku padded out of the bathroom no more than 15 minutes later, wearing gray shorts and a hoodie, smelling fresh like mint leaves and vanilla, a new shampoo Ochako had bought for him. Ochako made herself at home on Izuku's mattress, arms and legs still crossed. She kicked her shoes off, fully relaxed in his apartment. She waited for Izuku to emerge, giddy excitement in her stomach. She grinned knowingly at Izuku's confused expression when he saw and gestured wordlessly to the clothes neatly laid out beside her. He raised an eyebrow at her, looking for an explanation. You have absolutely no sense of style, she bluntly pointed out, making Izuku's jaw drop. She said nothing else, as though that was a decent explanation. Excuse me? Izuku sputtered. I can dress myself just fine, thanks. I don't need your help. Izuku pouted, annoyed. He could dress himself. He didn't need Ochako to mother hen him. He crossed his arms and scoffed sarcastically, making Ochako giggle. Then she threw one of his decorative pillows at him. It hit him straight in the forehead, then bounced to the floor. He scowled down at it, then back at her. True, but knowing you, you'll wear something so undeniably you that you'll get pointed out in an instant. What happened to not wanting to be recognized? Ochako raised an eyebrow back at him. She didn't give him another chance to complain because before he could even open his mouth to say something along the lines of no thanks, she was throwing the clothes she had picked out in his face. But my clothes are practical! Izuku whined like a child being told they couldn't have ice cream for dinner. Ochako rolled her eyes. You mean that wearing the same shirt with the same kanji in different colors every day is practical? Yeah, no, not on my watch. Ochako laughed, trying to wave him off once more. At least try them on, she encouraged. Izuku sighed defeatedly, looking down at the outfit she had chosen. A black and slightly ripped pair of cargo pants, a white long-sleeved t-shirt, and a faded gray Paramore band shirt that you could barely make out with the words on, meant to go over the top. Not bad, though he certainly would have never chose this himself. Why does she even have these clothes in my size? Did she buy them just in case or steal them from me a while back? After seeing that he was no longer going to throw a fit, Ochako pulled out her phone to text someone, not looking up as she shooed him away. Go, see if that fits you, she dismissed offhandedly before typing something on her phone. Who's she texting? Izuku wondered, frowning slightly. Someone from the band? Their friend group? Someone I don't know? His frown deepened. Now he was really curious. Izuku huffed, turning back around and stomping into the bathroom like a punished kid. The venue was packed by the time they arrived. Figures. It had taken them 30 minutes just to get a parking spot, and even then they had to walk like 3 blocks. Paramore is extremely popular, you dumbass. Once Izuku caught sight of the large stadium where their concert would be held, he felt like he was going to be sick. The line was so long it practically spiraled halfway around the building. The air was buzzing with chaotic excitement. Fans were squealing, chatting, and yelling. Izuku felt almost out of place among the real fans. He was kind of just here to support his friends. Ochako took one look at his shaking hands and sighed, grabbing his wrist and leading him over to the far back side of the stadium. There was a smaller but still packed queue and a couple dozen fans, waiting in a line outside a smaller foggy glass door. Izuku glanced around apprehensively until his eyes snagged on a large sign above the glass door reading VIP entrance only. VIP? They weren't VIPs, were they? Well, it would make sense for Ochako to be a VIP, but he was just here for fun. Ochako was the one actually friends with the band. Was this because he was tagging along? Ochako pulls up into the line, looking like she fits right in, even making conversation with the other fans in the line like old friends. Izuku didn't realize how much of a friendly and welcoming community Paramore had created. It's almost wholesome to see. Izuku leans over to whisper lowly at Ochako. Are you sure I'm meant to be here? He asks, skeptical. Ochako shakes her head, smiling. Of course, Mina put you on the list after all. List? What list? Mina did what? Before he could ask something else, Ochako turned back around and continued her conversation with a rather enthusiastic and large blonde boy and his friend with dark purple hair that looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. Leaving Izuku alone with his own thoughts, naturally he began to overthink. Where would we be sitting? Will I see the others at all? What will the venue be like? How loud are concerts usually? He snapped out of his thoughts as the line kept moving, and suddenly they were up next. Ochako smiled at the man checking the list. He nodded at her, acknowledging her existence rather unenthusiastically. Hey Shinzo, long time no see, eh? Ochako said casually. Izuku's breath stuttered momentarily before his brain could fully process the name Shinzo, not him. Izuku looked over at the security guard Ochako was talking to. Purple hair, tired and uninterested eyes, and an overall slouch about him. Nothing threatening, thank God. The man grunted, shuffling through a stack of papers. Good to see you, Uraraka. Your friend's name? He asked, sounding bored. He nodded in Izuku's direction, and suddenly he was filled with doubt. What if his name wasn't there? Midoriya Izuku, Ochako answered for him. Izuku almost let out a sigh of relief when Shinzo nodded, taking something off on his clipboard and gesturing for them to head through. The foyer is still packed with fans, standing around while chatting excitedly. Izuku noticed that most of them were holding lanyards with Paramore's logo on the front. Izuku and Ochako made their way through the crowd to a white stand at the back, where they get a black VIP wristband with the band logo in a fine print on the side. It's too bloody tight, Izuku mutters, frustrated under his breath, as he fiddled with the band around his wrist. Ochako just laughs at him as they make their way towards the doors to the VIP section. After around 10 minutes of waiting around, chatting to other fans, while Ochako did most of the talking, Izuku just stood at her side, nodding awkwardly. Izuku was dragged into another conversation with the blonde and the purple-haired couple from before. Ochako talked animatedly with the blonde guy who Izuku soon learned his name was Mirio Togata. Apparently they were in the same design class in college or something. Izuku and the purple-haired boy, a shy kid named Tamaki Amajiki, stood to the side awkwardly as their friends chatted away happily. Tamaki looked as though he was about to break down while Izuku just fiddled with his sleeve, eyes darting around the room for any sign of action. So, Izuku cleared his throat awkwardly. You come to concerts often? Tamaki kept his eyes trained on his shoes. No. Silence. Fair enough. Izuku shrugged before going back to eyeing the room anxiously. Eventually, 2 security guards opened the door into the stadium. The crowd practically gushed inside. As they entered the box above the rest of the seats, Izuku could help but gape at the perfect view of the stage. The VIP box stretched all around the top of the stadium, above the regular seats. Rows of plastic seats neatly arranged so they were all facing inwards towards the large stage in the middle of the area. There were already instruments set up in a diamond shape around the gray stage, facing right back out to the audience. Izuku and Ochako took seats directly in the middle, above the stage. They were only in the 3rd row, so they had a pretty good view of what was going on below. As Izuku settled nervously in the weirdly comfortable seats, he fiddled with his sleeve, looking around. Everyone here was so excited, he thought, looking around at the other VIPs, murmuring eagerly to each other. They all probably know every single Paramore lyric there is. What if I don't recognize the first song, if any at all? Izuku bites his lip nervously, glancing frantically around once more. The stadium smelled faintly like smoke and wood. The floors were slightly sticky, not enough to make you trip, but just enough to hear and feel your shoes stick briefly to the surface below. Izuku could hear the sounds of the muffled crowd outside, noticing how the enthusiastic buzzing grew louder and louder with each passing minute. Izuku could hear the exact moment the rest of the audience entered the stadium. Shuffling footsteps and booming chatter filtered in below them. The excited murmur of voices filled the room like water in a glass. A few moments later, without warning, the lights cut out. The stadium was swallowed in pitch black, and Izuku's heart nearly leapt out of his chest. A second later, the Paramore logo projected across the backdrop, and the sound that followed nearly split him in two. 20,000 people screamed like their lives depended on it, stomping, clapping, chanting something that he couldn't make out, the noise crashing over him like a tidal wave. An instrumental of, Izuku could only assume, one of the band's songs started playing through the speakers. The crowd got louder and even more rowdy, which Izuku didn't even think was possible. His whole body was on edge, but he loved it. The stage flashed with colored lights, flickering in a million different colors per second. Mainly red, though. Red is such a pretty color, isn't it? The energy inside the stadium was electric. Fans were yelling louder and louder, like they know the band is about to come on stage any second now. Izuku's hand gripped the armrest so tight that his knuckles turned white, yet he couldn't look away from the stage lights. Eventually, band members start walking on stage 2 at a time, causing the crowd to go even wilder than before, which Izuku had previously thought was impossible, but he was being proven wrong, even more wrong by the minute. First, 2 men walk onto the stage. They looked around Izuku's age, 23 or 24. One has brightly colored red hair. The other is an electric blonde with a lightning bolt sprayed onto the front of his hair. They both station themselves by expensive-looking electric guitars. They must be the guitarists, Izuku thinks briefly. The next 2 to walk on caught his attention. The first one he noticed was Mina. Her brightly dyed pink hair stood out against the dark walls and stage. Her yellow cat eyes took in the stadium with such raw energy and excitement that she looked like a kid at a candy store. She positioned herself near the back with the bass guitar. She looked so confident that Izuku was a little jealous. The other band member walked on confidently, barely even sparing the crowd a single glance before he sat down on a bright blue drum set off to the side, but still completely visible. The roar that followed was almost primal. Izuku blinked, heat crawling up his neck. Who screams that loud for a drummer? His spiky blonde hair and tall frame made the crowd cry excitedly. Izuku blinked. He didn't expect someone so sure of himself, someone that set off the vibe that if you so much looked at him the wrong way, he would set you on fire. Izuku narrowed his eyes down at the drummer with immediate dislike. So that's Katsuki Bakugo. He seems more insufferable in person. Typical. Of course, the loudest one in the room plays the drums. The crowd wailed and jeered 100 times louder than Izuku could have ever imagined when the last two musicians walked on stage. A man with pin-straight black hair down to his shoulders and sharp, pearly white teeth. He looked younger than the rest, but no less charming. Izuku can confidently say that he had no clue who he was. He felt kind of bad. The crowd couldn't say the same, though. They cheered just as loudly for him as they did everyone else. He walked over to a keyboard sitting directly behind the guitars. He stood so tall that you could see his head over the two guitarists. At least being seen by the crowd wasn't a problem for him. He grinned widely, practically radiating a pleasant aura. The last person to walk on stage was definitely someone Izuku knew. As she took the microphone in hand, Izuku was awestruck to see none other than Kyokujiro in the flesh. Not that he didn't know she'd be here. This is her band after all. It's just something about seeing one of the most popular Japanese artists in the world so close and in the same room, no less. Izuku gaped down at the band. He almost couldn't hear what she was saying. Ochako nudged him, bringing him back down to earth. He sheepishly grinned at her. She smirked and just rolled her eyes. Hey, who's the keyboardist? Izuku leaned over to Ochako. He didn't need to whisper. There was no point. She raised an eyebrow at him. You mean Sero? She asked. Oh, right. Yeah, that rings a bell. Izuku nods, turning his gaze back to the band, who was now hyping up the crowd. Jiro's voice echoed thunderously through the microphone. She sounded confident and ecstatic. All right, the first album we are starting the night with is Riot, Jiro announces, earning a giant cheer from the crowd. She puts the microphone back into place on the stand as her bandmates shifted into place. Izuku grinned as the first notes of For a Pessimist, I'm Pretty Optimistic by Paramore started vibrating through the crowd. He knows this song, and yeah, he'll be fine. The floor shook with the movement of the audience below. Izuku straightened in his seat to look over at the edge. He saw people dancing, moving, singing, and overall having a good time. He felt his lips slowly split into a smile as he sunk into a seat, relaxing and nodding along to the beats. This couldn't be more worth it. Izuku danced and sang his heart out with Ochako at his side, grinning as though he would never experience a tomorrow, as though this night was the only thing that mattered. 45 minutes in, Izuku encountered the first song he didn't recognize. He had been doing good so far. He was surprised he recognized as many songs as he did. Wait, no, he wasn't. Paramore is all over the radios nowadays. This was probably expected. But this song, the last song on the album, had him frowning. Ochako must have noticed because she leaned over and yelled in his ear, "This song is born for this. I always thought you'd like this one." Izuku's frown deepened. What did that mean? Oh no, I just keep on falling back to the same old. Where's hope when misery comes crawling? Oh my way. Izuku's chest tightened slightly. Wow, thanks Ochako, but to be honest, he didn't know. With your faith, you'll trigger a landslide victory and kill off this common sense of mine. Relatable. Izuku chuckled softly. And it takes acquired minds to taste this wine. You can't down it with your eyes. So Izuku almost laughed. I guess the haters just don't have acquired minds. Who could ever hate when their music sounded like this? So we don't need the headlines. We just want. Izuku couldn't help but admire their aim. It's admirable that they make music to bring people joy, no matter if they're being criticized or not. They don't need their endorsement to reach their goal. To him, that's all being successful should be about. Wanting to please people and yourself with what you create, not what anyone really thinks. Tell me, do you feel the pressure now? When did Izuku not? Everybody live like it's the last day you'll ever see. Tell me, do you feel the pressure now? Izuku felt like he had just stepped off of a roller coaster once the concert came to a close. He let loose a breath he didn't know he was holding once the last few These, a feature by Paramore, left the stadium silent. It was a beautiful song, and a few minutes later the crowd erupted in a cacophony of cheers and praises that bounced off the walls and made their chairs rumble. Ochako stood, grinning proudly as she clapped. Izuku stood at her side, doing the same before eventually settling down as the band thanked the audience and exited the stage. I can't believe I got myself worked up for nothing. As they exited the box through the same doors they entered from, Ochako's phone buzzed. Izuku looked over to her and saw her checking her phone. She shrugged and put it back into her pocket to check later. Izuku frowned. Who could possibly be texting her right now? This is definitely past their other friend's bedtime. Maybe Mina? Nah, she'd be packing up right about now. The crowd was still buzzing with leftover energy from the concert, making it almost impossible to weave through, but they managed, almost tripping over each other's feet as they made their way through the crowd. Izuku held his breath as he squeezed through the swarm of bodies. He could see the exit just out of reach, a little further. The second the cold night air hit Izuku's face, he automatically sighed, relaxing visibly. He breathed in as much fresh air as his lungs could handle as they walked back to their car. The city around them was still full of life. The concert noise slowly faded into the background as they walked. Buzzing crickets and katydids filled their ears as they walked through the park towards Ochako's dark blue sedan. Izuku shivered, hugging his arms to his chest, suddenly wishing he had brought something warm to wear. Wildlife buzzed all around them as they walked the dirt path through the public park. Izuku sighed, breathing in the fresh air. He looked back towards the stadium, eyes tracing the outline in the soft lighting. The stadium lights were still shining, making it easier to see in the dark night, even from where they were. The concert was amazing. Izuku would definitely go back the next time they click. It was so quiet he almost missed it. Izuku whipped his head around towards the source of the noise, a seemingly innocent bush on the side of the footpath. Izuku paused, stopping abruptly. He's pretty sure that Ochako was saying something, but he ignored her. Izuku squinted his eyes, stepping closer and trying to see past the leaves to find something that could have made that noise. If he didn't know any better, he would have thought that was an animal of sort. If he wasn't a public figure, maybe he would have believed it too. But he knew that sound. God, he knew it too well. That was the sound of a picture being taken, probably out of a very expensive camera. Was someone following them? Did they recognize him at the concert and decide to stalk him? That's creepy, but not a rare occasion. Izuku, is everything okay? Ochako's worried voice pierced through his thoughts, pulling him out of his mind and back to the present. He pressed his lips together in a thin line before looking up and nodding. I just thought I had heard something, he says, trying to make his voice sound steady, although he was practically shaking. What if someone did take a photo and it got leaked? Okay, well, Ochako eyes him with concern. If you're sure. Izuku nods, quickly walking back to her side. He casts one last sideways glance at the bush. It looks normal, but he knew better. Ochako is speaking again, his mind supplies, and he quickly makes an effort to tune back in. So, what did you think? Ochako asks, trying to sound casual and not as though she desperately wanted to know his thoughts. It was amazing, Izuku gushed, grinning over at Ochako. I'd definitely do that again. I don't know why I was so nervous. He laughed, feeling slightly giddy all of a sudden. Ochako smirked and his stomach plummeted to his feet. That's never good. Told you. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. The sparkling yellow phone case caught in the moonlight through the trees. Then maybe you won't be so apprehensive about this, too. She unlocked her phone with a swipe of her thumb and handed it over to him. Izuku's eyebrows scrunched in confusion as his eyes flickered across the messages displayed on her screen. Mina, my Shayla, 2118. Mina, Ochako, hi. Mina, I saw you and our bestie Midori at the concert. Hope you liked it. But anyway, I know you always go to the diners afterwards, so you and Midori are welcome to tag along. The other peeps are really keen on seeing you again and meeting the little cinnamon roll. Let me know if you can make it. Izuku thinks his soul just left his body. His brain is spamming the words nope on repeat. His body felt like glue and his head felt fuzzy. There's no way Ochako would agree to that. There's no way she'd put him through that on purpose. And if she does, surely he doesn't have to go, right? She could just drop him home quickly, right? You're surely gonna decline, right? Izuku asks, letting his plea seep into his voice. Ochako snatches the phone back exasperately. She seemed to deflate at his obvious hesitation. She quickly reaches into her purse to look for her keys. All the while she gives him the look. Come on, you read the text. She clearly wants you there. It won't be awkward and you won't stand out. She even has a nickname for you already. She huffs, unlocking the car. Yeah, speaking of that, why the hell did you refer to me as the little cinnamon roll on multiple occasions? Otaku clears her throat. Unimportant, she says quickly, putting the phone back into her pocket. Izuku raises an eyebrow. What does that even mean? Otaku sighs, opening the car door and climbing inside, Izuku following after. Once the door slams closed and the chill on the vacant car is fresh on their bones, she speaks. The point is, please, I really want to go. Otaku pleads, trying to give him puppy eyes. She even sticks out her bottom lip and everything. Izuku sighs, pulling the seatbelt over his lap and putting his phone in the car door. Can't you just drop me home first, then go? Otaku pouts, looking at him with desperation. But I need your moral support. You're always so much better at social situations than I am. Plus, it'd be so much funner with you there. Izuku turns to narrow his eyes at her with an accusing look. You're trying to butter me up, aren't you? Otaku grins. Not at all, just trying to kindly persuade you. Is it working? Izuku thinks for a moment, really thinks. Would meeting the band really be that bad? Izuku looks away from Otaku and quickly draws up a pros and cons list in his mind. Cons, they might not like you. You might not fit in. It might be awkward. They might recognize you. You might not like them. Otaku might leave you by yourself while she talks with the band. You might feel sick. You might have a horrible time. Pros, you could make new friends. They could like you. You could like them. They could not recognize you. You won't regret not taking the chance. You could have a good time. You could fit in immediately. You could walk away with new opportunities. You could get free tickets to the next show. Nope, wait. Okay, wait, scratch that last one. Izuku turns back to Otaku with a hesitant smile. Fine, it's working. She cheers. The second Otaku's sedan pulled into a random American restaurant's parking lot. A certain pink-haired bassist was knocking on their car window. Izuku jumped once he heard the soft thumps coming from his left. He cursed, whipping his head around to the window to check for some sort of serial killer. Or maybe that creepy stalker that took photos of you in the park. He might not like scary movies, but he knows how they go. He sighs and sinks back into his seat when he recognizes the washed-out pink waves. Otaku laughs at his expense, clicking her seatbelt off and gathering her things. She waves through the foggy glass at Mina, a sheepish grin on her face. You can hear Mina giggle through the glass. She beams, waving over someone off to the side. Izuku grimaces, wondering how the hell he ended up here. He grabs his phone, taking a deep breath before unbuckling himself and opening the car door. A bitter, sharp breeze hits his face like a hammer, immediately freezing the tip of his nose. Each exhale formed tiny clouds that lingered a moment on his lips before vanishing into the still air. Izuku looked over to the other side of the car where Otaku and Mina were standing, treading away like the air wasn't feeling like the Arctic mountains. A tall guy with spiky red hair stood awkwardly beside Mina, holding her hand limply and looking lost. One of the guitarists. Izuku walks over hesitantly to stand behind Otaku, looking and feeling like a lost puppy. Izuku can see the exact moment Mina sees him because her eyes go wide, and he could have sworn he saw her irises light up. He can feel his cheeks burn in embarrassment, and as she lets go of the guitarist's hand and grabs his shoulders and shakes him, grinning wildly. Mito-Bay, you made it! Otaku said you might not come. Mina giggled, shaking him once more, before Izuku assumed was her boyfriend reined her in. Izuku quickly let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Calm down, Mina. You still haven't introduced me to your friend. He flashed Izuku a wicked grin before he stepped forward and held out his hand expectantly. Eijiro Kirishima, Otaku mentioned you were coming. His voice is warm and strong, the kind that can comfort you and reassure you at the same time. His hand was sturdy and sure. Izuku matched his smile and shook it. Nice to meet you, Kirishima. I saw your performance. You're so talented. Izuku's eyes sparkled. Kirishima chuckled. He seems so nice. Can't believe I was nervous to be judged. Kirishima seemed like the type of guy to hype you up, not bring you down. Izuku felt calm around him already. He only hoped the rest of the band was like him. Mina smiled and nudged Kirishima's arm. He laughed awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. Mina mentioned you were super cool. I appreciate it, man. Izuku's ears burn and he looks away. Just what else had Mina said about him? Hopefully he won't start giving him embarrassing nicknames as well. He's not sure he could take it. Thanks. Izuku mumbles, a small smile on his face. The cold air catches up to them, and they walk over to the diner's front door. It's a cozy place. There's a small garden out the front with long tables fit for parties and giant family gatherings. Bushes line the area, enclosing in the space. There's wooden gondolas and stands sectioning out the place. Warm white fairy lights hang from the structures. On one of the big tables sat the other band members. Their laughs and excited chatter filled Izuku's ears as they walked closer to the doors. Apparently, Mina and Kirishima had arrived at the same time they did, so they walked in together. Before heading to the table, they quickly stopped inside. The girls needed to use the restroom, and Izuku and Kirishima both refused to meet the others without them. Apparently, Kirishima was just as socially awkward as he was. That was comforting. A couple of moments of awkward conversations passed. The tables around them buzzed with conversations and happy laughter, reminding Izuku of his other friends. He wonders what they're doing now. Tenya, Shoto, and Asui are in a community college nearby, so he and Ochako don't get to see them too often. At least Ochako's fashion school is flexible, only open Monday through Thursday. Asui and Ochako's relationship has been thriving despite the long distance. They still remain in the same town, but the time they could get together is scarce. At least they've organized a catch-up in the coming months once the Christmas break begins, so that's something to look forward to. Izuku smiles at the thought. Ochako and Mina come out of the bathroom, giggling like a bunch of schoolgirls over a joke he will likely never hear. Once they spot Kirishima and Izuku standing to the side awkwardly, they rush over. Ochako nudges his shoulder as they walk back out to the gardens, a teasing glint in her big brown eyes. Excited? You'll get along great. Trust me, Izuku. Izuku exhales shakingly, rearranging his features to do a somewhat reassured expression as he nods his head, giving a quickly staged smile before looking away. How could she be so sure? 4 people sat around the table of 8, laughing and telling jokes, but the volume immediately picked up once Kirishima stepped towards the table with a grin. Hey guys, sorry we're late. The other blonde-haired guitarist and the keyboardist, Sero, stood up, each with a very loud greeting. Yo, the manly man's manly man, you finally made it. The blonde walked over and clapped his shoulder with a mischievous chin. Izuku could just tell he was the clown of the group. Sero grinned, waving them over. Hey Kiri, Mina, brought Ochako and a friend with you. He looked over Izuku with a curious expression. Izuku fidgeted under his gaze, giving him a sheepish smile. I'm Izuku Midoriya, a friend of Ochako's. He added quickly. An arm gets thrown around his shoulder. Before he could look up, a voice was speaking in mock offense. Excuse me? You're my friend too. Mina scoffed sarcastically, nudging him with her hips before Ochako laughed. Izuku's face burned. Of course. I never said you weren't. Mina waves him off with a laugh. Just messing with you. She giggles before pulling him into a seat next to her at the table. Okay, this is happening now, apparently. Kirishima sits down next to him while Ochako sat a couple seats down at the other end. Mina retracts her arm from his shoulder to get comfortable. Izuku can feel the warmth fall off his neck, now just left to the mercy of the soon-to-be winter wind. He looks up directly across from him and freezes, heart pounding wildly in his ears. Suddenly, he feels a pathetic urge to run, to hide from those eyes, burning with curiosity and hatred. Hatred already? How'd you already fuck this up, Izuku? Viridian eyes made a burning crimson red. Izuku jolts. So, Mr. Green Hair, how'd you meet our good friend, Ma'am Mochi? Izuku whips his head around at the source of the voice. The electric blonde guitarist pinned him with an amused expression. Izuku rolled his eyes at the nickname. Mr. Green Hair? Seriously? Izuku glares at him jokingly, making the blonde chuckle. We went to high school together, same photography class. Izuku answers with a quick shrug of the shoulders, and Izuku Midoriya is fine. He gives him a slight look of annoyance. The guitarist just laughs. Denki Kaminari, geez, you people never lighten up. Ochako kicks him under the table. Izuku could tell because she's right next to him. She looks pissed, and he jumped like a scared cat, then shot her an annoyed frown. Oh, we lighten up, all right, just when you're out of the room. A soft but sturdy voice came from the corner. Izuku's stomach flipped. Don't freak out, don't freak out. Oh, Kyoka, you wounded me. I simply cannot believe you've done this. Kaminari quipped back dramatically, bowing his head. Jiro scoffed, turning back to her silent menu scanning. A low, husky voice grunted across from Izuku. And why is he here again? Izuku's head shot up to face the red-eyed blonde, who apparently had a problem with him, and frowned. Who shat in his cereal? Oh, Blasty, you're just so welcoming, aren't you? And for the record, I invited him. We knew you'd react like this, which is why we didn't tell you. So drop the attitude, will ya? Izuku quipped, her tone laced with underlying warning. She knows how bad his anxiety is. Izuku can't help but hold back a proud smile. It's nice when she stands up for him, even when she does it a little too often. Kaminari bumps his shoulder, looking like he enjoys pissing people off, and he probably does. Bakubro, it ain't that deep, he smirks, giving Bakugo a look before going back to the menu. Bakugo grumbles, giving Izuku a deathly side-eye. Izuku just rolls his eyes, sending the explosive blonde off even more. All throughout dinner, Bakugo did not stop glaring at him with pure frustration every time he talked to one of his friends. Like, seriously, what is up with this guy? Izuku had thought he had left his childhood stubbornness and sass behind in high school, having grown into an anxiety-ridden people-pleaser he was today, but Bakugo seemed to know exactly how to bring it out of him again. It annoyed Izuku to no end. He didn't want to yell at the guy in the first 20 minutes of meeting him, but that seemed to be exactly what Bakugo wanted. The blonde seemed to just get more frustrated by the second, tapping his thumb on the table 12 times exactly. No, Izuku did not make an effort to count. He just noticed it over time, before taking a sip of his drink. Was he really that bothered by Izuku's presence? He's so tense and rigid that even Jiro notices and leans over to whisper something to him. Bakugo looks over to her quickly, frowning before giving a curt nod of the head, and then goes back to tapping his thumbs. Izuku is puzzled by this interaction. Were they talking about him? And why Bakugo seemed to despise him so much? Now Izuku is curious. He wants to know what he did to piss off the blonde so much. Izuku slowly sips his drink, turning back in on Sero and Kirishima's conversation, more like an argument that he was previously a part of. But his mind had strayed elsewhere once their food had arrived, thinking back to this morning and even the night before. He had watched a pretty interesting documentary about the science behind serial killers and the way they tick. How they think and what causes a person to turn to violence. What serial killers had mental illnesses involved and which ones were downright insane, killing for the thrill. Izuku had learned his mind was an interesting place, absorbing all kinds of information like a wet sponge. Why was he watching a documentary about murderers? He truly did not know, but found it intriguing all the same. He looked down at his bowl of carbonara with a fixed expression, mind drifting through space without a thought. His mind bubble was soon popped by slightly confused and concerned Mina. Izuku just waved her away, look, with a shrug and sheepish smile. Izuku ate his pasta slowly with a little comment, preferring to listen rather than talk at the moment, which was out of character. What has gotten into me? A gruff voice above him lets out a soft scoff, so Izuku almost didn't hear it. What, are you gonna write a fucking Yelp review? Just eat your damn food. Bakugo grumbles, so quiet only Izuku could hear. The others were so invested in their own conversations that they barely spared the glare Izuku gave him a single glance. Only Ochako, giving him a look that clearly said, "Don't start." Oh, so it's like that? I'd prefer not to choke, thanks. Izuku huffs, looking away and taking a sip of water anyway. Was Bakugo always this delightful, or did he just really dislike him? You're eating so slowly there'll be nothing to choke on, he retorted, glaring back. He watched Izuku drink as though he wished nothing more than for him to drown. If you care so much, why don't you eat your own food? Izuku hissed, voice low as not to draw attention to their petty argument. Not even an argument. It's like Bakugo was made to stir up trouble. A little demon sent from hell to conjure up pure chaos wherever he went. It was like he wants Izuku to crack, to yell and piss off everyone else. Izuku knows what he's doing. He's trying to get him kicked out. Not happening. The other mumbles something incoherent under his breath before dropping the subject and stabbing his steak with his fork. Izuku let a tiny smirk slip, just enough to get under his skin once more. He looked up to find Ochako looking at him with a curious look, her eyes bouncing between him and Bakugo before a soft scowl settled on her lips. Her eyebrows bunched together. She looks down at her plate with an expression that vaguely resembles confusion, concern, and frustration all at once. That rubs Izuku the wrong way. Seriously, what is up with her lately? The dinner continues with little to no incidents. Izuku could feel himself loosening up around these people. He could actually see himself hanging out with them more often, which Izuku liked. He was hoping for this. This was the best possible outcome, although he wished he wasn't constantly being challenged by a certain angry drummer. Apart from the occasional mutter of antagonizing comments exchanged between the two, Bakugo rarely spoke to him, if at all. Izuku had hoped no one noticed the brief remarks they had been sharing all throughout dinner, but alas, when did he ever get his way? Okay, seriously, Guys, are you 5? Do we need to separate you? Mina's teasing voice rang through the air, ripping him from a very intense glaring competition between him and Mr. I Know Everything. Izuku straightened in his seat, turning to Mina to flash a sheepish grin. He could feel his ear warm. Sorry, we'll stop, he stammered quickly, giving Bakugo a look from the corner of his eye that clearly said, knock it off. He just scoffed and looked away. Izuku smiled. He'd take that as a sign that he'd leave him alone for now. Mina shook her head with a soft chuckle and a knowing look in his direction before continuing her chat with Jiro. What did that mean? God, these people confused me. The chatter had died down significantly after the waiter came to collect their empty dishes. Mina and Kirishima were the first to leave, standing up abruptly and announcing some half-assed excuse that they needed to get home to feed their new dog. But Izuku knew they were just as exhausted as he felt, judging by the way the redhead's eyes drooped downwards. Mina looked right as rain, though. He seriously needed to ask her what her secret was. She hugged Izuku as they left, whispering quickly in his ear, "Thank you for coming. He'll always be welcome with us." She skipped off to Kirishima, linking their arms and walking out, not before giving Izuku a mischievous wink. He will never understand that girl. One look from Ochako had her following their lead, stretching and bidding her farewells as well. Izuku joined her, awkwardly waving goodbye as well. Kaminari gripped his shoulder, talking loudly about something Izuku didn't quite catch in his delirious state. Sarah just fist-bumped him and said something along the lines of, "It was nice to meet you," or whatever. Izuku just wanted to go home, sleep, and never wake up. Jiro gave him a small smile and a thumbs up. Izuku couldn't help but grin back, returning the gesture. "I think that means she likes me." The last to catch his eye was Bakugo, who had previously been doing his very best to ignore him. When their eyes met, Izuku's heart stopped, for no reason apart from annoyance. He narrowed his eyes at the blonde before giving him a slight tilt of the head. Bakugo hesitated, his sharp eyes boring into his. Suddenly, the frown on his lips softened even so slightly. "Wait, what?" And he inched his head downwards in return. To anyone but Izuku, it would just look like a twitch, but he knew better. Izuku swore he saw a ghost of a smirk on the drummer's face before it was gone, replaced by his usual scowl. Izuku smiled softly, looking away once more. Maybe they'll be okay. Ochako gave him a smile, her hand hovering over his shoulder to guide him away from the table, not before giving everyone one last wave, which they gladly returned. He could hear her sigh through her nose, deflating significantly once they were out of that dimly lit garden. Her low heels were the only thing Izuku could hear, clicking across the car park concrete. The low chatter of the restaurant now felt like a world away. Izuku managed to force his lips into one last small smile as he got into the passenger seat of her blue car. "Thanks for letting me tag along, Chaco. You were right. Your other friends are amazing." He had meant for the words to come out more positive than they did. Instead, he just sounded worn out more than anything. Ochako nodded in return, pulling the seatbelt across her chest. Izuku did the same, leaning his head back on her shoulder, letting his eyes flutter shut. He could hear the smile in Ochako's voice as she spoke. "We're glad you came." Izuku practically fell onto his bed the second he closed the door. He smiled into his pillow, mind racing with memories of the concert and the dinner afterwards. He's glad they were so welcoming, even if he felt like an outsider at times. That was to be expected. They've probably known each other for years. It'll be hard for him to fit in, if at all. But Ochako managed. He could too. "I wonder how they all met," Izuku speculated, rolling onto his back swiftly. His eyes were met with his white ceiling. He had to blink rapidly to adjust to the bright light above. "We definitely didn't all go to high school together, and they can't have met at Ochako's fashion school because they are musicians, not designers. So where? In passing? Maybe Asui introduced them, since she didn't go to the same high school as Ochako, Tenya, Shoto, and I did. But then again, if she did, she would have introduced the rest of the friend group as well, right? Unless she didn't want the rest of us to meet them. Is that why Ochako was acting so weird? Did Asui not know he met them as friends as well? If she was the one who introduced Ochako to them, that is. Maybe Ochako was scared it would turn into another Shindo incident and he'd resort back to bad habits. But that's not right. She seemed pretty confident that they would get along just fine. Plus, after meeting the band, there was no way Ochako could ever think they were capable of the things Shindo had done. Except maybe Bakugo. Wait, is that why she kept looking at us? She thought he'd hurt me and was watching in case she needed to step in? That's stupid. I can fight my own battles. Izuku glared at the ceiling for a solid minute before finally deciding it wasn't worth mulling over any further. He stood up, stripped his stupid band shirt off his body with a huff, and tossed it to the floor without a second glance. Afterward, Izuku dragged his sore feet into his bathroom, shutting the door behind him with a soft click. In the mirror, he looked dead on his feet, and he felt it too. He turned to the shower handles, letting the water slowly warm up while he pulled the rest of his clothes off. He draped his clothes over the towel holder for now. He quickly adjusted the water so it wasn't piping hot and stepped inside. A sigh of contempt immediately left his mouth as the hot water hit his skin, pouring down his back and splashing against the shower floor's white tiles. His back muscles untensed quickly after that. Izuku got out of the shower, feeling like a brand new person. He dried himself quickly. His hair frizzed up frantically as he ran the towel through the curls. He walked out of the bathroom with the towel around his waist, walking across his apartment and into his bedroom. His pajamas from last night were draped across his chair, just a loose white pajama top and a pair of long pants. He'd put them there because they weren't clean, therefore they couldn't go back in the cupboard. But they weren't dirty either, so he couldn't put them in the washing basket. They were just used, so he put them on his chair. Simple fix, really, although it messed up the look of his room significantly. After he put them on, Izuku made his bed, something he wasn't able to do that morning. Then sprayed some sort of room spray that smelled nice, before finally climbing under the covers. He closed his eyes and sighed deeply. Just as he was getting close to falling asleep, his phone pinged. He ignored it. It pinged again, and again, and again. Izuku groaned, rolling over to grab it, assuming it was probably his mother or Shoto, asking how to cook 2-minute noodles again. The screen lit up brightly as he unlocked it and clicked on the messages. Instead, it was Mina. Mina, 2353. I'm sorry, Izuku, not really. Sweet dreams. Izuku frowned down at the phone. What did that mean? He clicked out of her chat and his stomach flipped when he saw that he had been added to a random group against his will. He clicked on it to see what it was, even though he had a small idea. The W band, 2354. Mina added the cinnamon roll to the W band's conversation. Includes 7 unknown members. Feeling unsafe? Report here. Mina, welcome, Izuku. You're one of us now. Izuku swallowed. He should feel happy, excited even, but his stomach twisted in a curious sense of dread. Alright, that was chapter 3 of The Taste of Music on Your Tongue. It was extremely long, but it was cute and fun, but as you can tell, I am dead. The recording is almost an hour long. For reference, I'm going to see how long ago I sat down to record. I sat down to record an hour and 20 minutes ago, so yeah, it's taken a while. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I definitely did. And thank you for sticking with me for this time. Woo, time. That's such a weird concept. Anyways, remember to eat, sleep, drink your water, and take your meds. And when you sleep, go to bed at a reasonable time. Y'all can't clown on me for this because it is just barely noon. It is 12:01 p.m., so 4 hours before I'm posting this. Tomorrow's video will be the final section of Keeping Up with the Bakugos. I'm excited for that, but a little bittersweet that it's ending. But I need to get new fics, because I could not only be recording this one, because it's so long. The chapters, if you remember from the beginning of the video, this chapter was 8.3 thousand words long, and that took me a fucking while. So, yeah. Remember, kids, be do and crime gay.